Imagine this. It's 1914 and a young man named George Coles stands in front of a tiny 20 by 18-foot shop in Collingwood, Melbourne. He's just 29 years old, armed with nothing but a revolutionary idea and an audacious slogan: nothing over 2 shillings and 6 pence. Little did anyone know that this modest variety store would evolve into a retail empire that would fundamentally reshape how Australians shop, eat, and live. But here's the twist. This isn't just a success story. It's a tale of ambition, controversy, family feuds, corporate battles, and a duopoly that now controls the food destiny of 25 million Australians. Today, when you walk into any Coles' store, you're stepping into more than a century of drama, innovation, and power struggles that would make any soap opera pale in comparison. Our story begins not in Melbourne, but in the small Victorian town of Yeongjong. So we need to go back into history where George James Coles was born, and that was March 28, 1885. His father was a struggling storekeeper, moving the family from town to town, establishing small general stores just to survive. Young George watched his father's struggles, his mother Elizabeth's sacrifices, and learned the harsh realities of retail from the ground up. In 1913, George made a decision that would change Australian retail forever. He sailed to America and Britain, not as a tourist, but as a student of commerce. He walked through the 5 and 10-cent stores of America, mesmerized by the self-service model, the variety, and most importantly, the democratic pricing that made quality goods accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy. When George returned to Australia, he carried more than just business ideas. He carried a mission. He had seen how retail could transform lives, how the right approach could give working families dignity in their purchasing power. On April 9, 1914, he opened the first Coles variety store on Smith Street, Collingwood, with a promise that would resonate for generations: nothing over 2.6. This wasn't just a pricing strategy, it was a social revolution. In an era where shopping was often intimidating, where working-class families felt unwelcome in fancy stores, George created a space where everyone belonged. Success brought its own challenges. By 1921, George had brought his brothers Arthur, Edgar, Kenneth, and Norman into the business. Forming G.J. Coles and Company, they were known as the famous 5 Knights, all eventually knighted for their contributions to Australian commerce. But power shared is power contested. In 1935, a dramatic family coup attempt nearly destroyed the company. George's autocratic leadership style had created resentment among his brothers, leading to a very public attempt to oust him from the company he founded. The Sydney newspapers had a field day, but George survived, emerging stronger and more determined. The 1930s depression could have killed Coles, but instead it made them stronger. While other businesses failed, Coles expanded aggressively. By 1933, they had stores in every Australian state. Their secret? They understood that in tough times, value wasn't just important, it was survival. 1960 marked the most significant transformation in Coles' history. Edgar Coles, George's brother, opened Australia's first freestanding supermarket in Balwyn, North Victoria. This wasn't just a bigger store, it was a complete reimagining of how Australians would shop. Gone were the days of asking shopkeepers for items behind the counter. The self-service model, imported from America but perfected for Australian conditions, gave customers freedom, choice, and control over their shopping experience. By the 1970s, the Coles family era was ending. In 1970, Sir Thomas North became the first non-family managing director, signaling a new chapter. But the real drama was yet to come. In 1980, something unprecedented happened in Australian business. Coles merged with the Myer retail empire, creating Coles Myer Limited, the largest corporation in Australian history at that time. This wasn't just a business deal, it was the creation of a retail superpower that would dominate Australian shopping for decades. The merger brought together 2 different retail philosophies: Coles' democratic, value-focused approach, and Myer's upmarket, service-oriented model. The result was a company that could serve every Australian from every walk of life. The 1990s and early 2000s saw Coles Myer on a buying spree that would make modern tech companies envious. They acquired Bilo Supermarkets in 1987, Kmart, Australia, 78, Officeworks in 993, Target stores, Liquorland and other alcohol retailers, Red Rooster, later sold. Each acquisition was strategic, designed to capture different market segments and create an ecosystem where Coles could serve customers every retail need. But success bred complacency. By the mid-2000s, Coles was struggling. The supermarket division was losing ground to Woolworths, Kmart was bleeding money, and management seemed unable to adapt to changing consumer preferences. In 2006, private equity firm KKR attempted a hostile takeover, offering $14.50 per share. The Coles board rejected it as inadequate. A second offer of $15.25 was also rejected. The company was in play, vulnerable, and desperate. Enter Wesfarmers, the Perth-based conglomerate. In July 2007, they made an offer that couldn't be refused. $22 billion, the largest takeover in Australian history at that time. Shareholders approved with an overwhelming 99.25% vote. Wesfarmers brought in British retail experts, led by Ian McLeod from the UK grocery sector. This was Australia's British invasion moment in retail. McLeod and his team introduced European-style aggressive supplier negotiations, operational efficiencies, and the famous down-down pricing campaign. The results were dramatic. Within a few years, Coles had transformed from a struggling retailer into a lean, efficient machine that could compete toe-to-toe with Woolworths. Today's Coles is a different beast entirely. Since its demerger from Wesfarmers in 2018, Coles Group operates 860 stores, employs 120,000 people, and controls 27% of the Australian grocery market. Combined with Woolworth's 37%, they form what critics call the Coles-Woolworths duopoly, controlling 65% of all grocery sales in Australia. What are the pros and cons of this duopoly for customers? Coles can negotiate better prices from suppliers, theoretically passing savings to customers. They've invested heavily in automation, with state-of-the-art distribution centers in Queensland, Victoria, and New South Wales. They provide jobs for 120,000 plus Australians. Nearly 1,900 retail outlets make shopping accessible nationwide. Advanced online shopping, click and collect services, and the Flybuys loyalty program, electric delivery trucks, automated fulfillment centers, and reduced food waste initiatives. But power comes with responsibility, and Coles faces significant criticism. Accusations of using heavy-handed tactics with suppliers, forcing unreasonable contract terms. The 2024 ACCC legal action alleges misleading down-down discount claims, raising prices, then offering discounts that weren't genuine savings. The duopoly limits competition, potentially keeping prices higher than they would be in a more competitive market. Independent grocers struggle to compete, reducing choice and local character in many communities. No corporate giant reaches Coles' size without controversy. The company has faced several significant scandals. Coles controversially acquired Pharmacy Direct, using a corporate loophole to bypass laws requiring pharmacies to be owned by qualified pharmacists. The Pharmacy Guild took them to court, and Coles was forced to sell the business, a rare corporate defeat. A 2014 federal court ruling found that Coles had threatened harm to suppliers if they didn't meet their demands, resulting in a $10 million penalty. This highlighted systematic bullying of smaller suppliers who depended on Coles for market access. In 2015, Coles was fined $2.5 million for misleading claims about their freshly baked bread, which was actually par-baked elsewhere and finished in-store. The 24 down-down scandal represents the most serious challenge to Coles' reputation in years. The ACCC alleges systematic deception, where Coles raised prices then offered discounts to pre-increased levels, misleading customers about genuine savings. Behind the corporate numbers are real human stories. When Coles and Woolworths enter a town, local grocers often can't compete. Debbie Smith, who owned independent supermarkets in Queensland, watched her business die when a Coles opened 800 meters away. Despite staying open until 11 p.m. and offering free home delivery, she couldn't match the giant's scale and pricing. Australian farmers and food producers describe a love-hate relationship with Coles. While the company provides massive market access, Suppliers report feeling powerless in negotiations. Some describe being forced to accept unprofitable contracts or risk losing their biggest customer. Coles employs 120,000 plus Australians, making it one of the nation's largest employers. While this provides crucial employment, workers report intense pressure, with efficiency metrics and cost-cutting measures that can make work stressful and demanding. Despite controversies, Coles continues innovating. Their recent investments tell a story of a company preparing for the future. They major invest in 3 fields: automation, digital transformation, and sustainability initiatives. In automation revolution, like Witron-powered distribution centers using robotic systems, Ocado-powered customer fulfillment centers with advanced picking technology, electric vehicle fleet, reducing environmental impact, AI-driven inventory management, and demand forecasting. While in digital transformation includes Coles Online growing rapidly, especially post-COVID, advanced mobile apps with personalized offers, click and collect services expanding to smaller formats, integration of Flybuys data for targeted marketing, and the last one, sustainability initiatives like electric delivery trucks and vans, reduced packaging initiatives, food waste reduction programs, renewable energy and distribution centers. Australia's grocery concentration is among the highest globally. In the UK, the top 2 supermarkets, Tesco and Sainsbury's, control 43% of the market compared to Australia's 65%. This concentration gives Coles and Woolworths enormous power, but also enormous responsibility. The failed entry of German giant Kaufland illustrates the barriers to competition. Despite a $500 million budget, Kaufland couldn't secure enough suitable sites or reliable suppliers, ultimately abandoning their Australian expansion. Critics argue this demonstrates how the duopoly's land banking and supplier relationships create almost insurmountable barriers for competitors. From George Coles's modest variety store in 1914 to today's corporate giant, the Coles story is fundamentally the story of modern Australia. It's a tale of innovation and efficiency, of providing value and convenience to millions of families. But it's also a story of concentrated power, of market dominance that raises fundamental questions about competition, fairness, and consumer choice. Today, as you walk through any Coles supermarket, you're experiencing the culmination of 111 years of retail evolution. The gleaming aisles, the hundreds of product choices, the competitive prices, these represent genuine achievements that have improved Australian lives. But you're also participating in a system where 2 companies control what most Australians eat, where suppliers fear speaking out, where small competitors struggle to survive, and where pricing practices face legal scrutiny. George Coles's original vision was democratization, making quality goods accessible to everyone. In many ways, modern Coles delivers on this promise. A working family can shop for a week's groceries with confidence in quality, variety, and relative value. As we conclude this journey through 111 years of Coles history, remember that this story isn't over. Every time you scan a Flybuys card, compare prices, or choose where to shop, you're writing the next chapter. The question isn't whether Coles will continue to be powerful, it's whether that power will be used responsibly. In the end, the Coles story is our story, a reflection of Australian values, ambitions, and the eternal tension between efficiency and fairness, between corporate success and community responsibility. George Coles promised that nothing would be over 2.6. Today, we're still asking, what's the real price of convenience and who ultimately pays it?